Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to check the Moonlight kit, the latest video transmission system by Walksnail/Calyx. Well, the Moonlight kit is identical in terms of video transmission capabilities to all the HD VTXs by Walksnail. The new thing about it is that it will enable you to capture up to 4K 60 frames per second footage to a micro SD card. In this video, I'm going to go over the features and specs of the new Walksnail Moonlight HD Kit system, give you my initial feedback after testing it out, and of course, show you some flight footage. In terms of packaging, inside the box you can find a quick start guide, the VTX and camera units, along with an ND8 filter which comes pre-assembled on the camera lens, two 10 cm long LHCP antennas which are using an IPX antenna connector, an 11 cm long 4-pins JST connector harness for connecting the VTX unit to a flight controller, a harness which is used for connecting the two VTX unit boards and will enable you to update the VTX firmware, and finally a bag with M2 screws which are used for securing the VTX and camera units. In terms of features and specs, first of all, the Walksnail Moonlight system is supported by all Walksnail devices and it will only require you to update the firmware to the latest available version. It means that if you have the Recon HD goggles or the Avatar VRX or the older Walksnail goggles, the system is going to be compatible and it won't require you to use the latest Goggle X system. The Moonlight VTX unit itself is based on two boards. The bottom one is the same one which is used by the latest dual antenna VTX unit, and the top one is used for recording up to 4K 60 frames per second footage to a micro SD card. That means that the specs of the VTX board are completely identical to the specs of the dual antenna VTX unit, so it supports two antennas. The maximum output power is 1200 milliwatts. The supported DC input voltage is between 7.4 to 25.2 volts, and connecting the VTX unit to a flight controller is done in the same manner just like all the other VTX units by Walksnail. In addition, the recording board supports up to 256GB micro SD cards, and according to Walksnail, they are going to sell both boards individually, so in case something goes wrong, you don't have to replace the entire VTX unit and just replace the damaged board. As for updating the firmware of the VTX board, it is done by loading the firmware to a micro SD card. After inserting it to the micro SD card slot and powering the system, you'll be able to override the internal 8GB storage of the VTX board with the micro SD card by bridging these two JST ports using the provided harness, and then you'll be able to initiate the VTX firmware update procedure by long pressing this button for about 8 seconds. You should note that while you will be able to access the onboard 8GB of storage of the VTX board using this USB cable, which is provided by the other VTX units by Walksnail, it is not going to be applicable for this firmware update, as using this harness is going to make sure that both boards are going to be updated by the provided firmware. In terms of dimensions, the weight of the Moonlight VTX unit on its own is 28.7 grams. In comparison, the weight of the Avatar HD Kit V2 VTX board is 19.2 grams, and that means that the added weight of the recording board is about 9.5 grams. As for the Moonlight camera unit, it weighs 10 grams along with a 14 centimeters long coaxial cable. The ND8 filter weighs 3.3 grams. Each antenna weighs 2.2 grams, and the total weight of the Moonlight system is 43 grams, not including the ND8 filter, and 46.3 grams including it. In comparison to the DJI O3 system, both camera and VTX units of the Moonlight system are a bit heavier, and without comparing antennas, the DJI O3 system is about 4.3 grams lighter. In addition, the outer dimensions of the Moonlight VTX unit are 34.7 by 34.4 by 13.2 millimeters without including the 20 by 20 millimeters M2 mounting holes and 15.5 millimeters including them. And the dimensions of the Moonlight camera unit are 19.5 by 19 by 24.1 millimeters without the ND filter and 25.2 millimeters including it. Speaking about the ND filter, as you can see, its structure is pretty robust. It is going to double act as a camera lens protector, and you should pay attention that it is inserted all the way in, as otherwise you can see parts of it in the recorded footage. Here you can see the DJI-03 and the Moonlight VTX units side by side. While their thickness is very similar, the Moonlight is wider than the 03, and the main issue with that is that it's going to prevent you from simply using the Moonlight system on builds that were specifically designed for the DJI-03. It's going to be especially noticeable in Cinewoop builds, and another problem is that the micro SD card slot is located pretty much at the center of the VTX unit, while the USB Type-C port of the 03 unit is located on its bottom side. In some builds, it's going to prevent you from accessing the micro SD card slot, especially in tighter and Cinewoop builds, which are covered by plastic parts, but of course it's not going to be a problem in case both sides of the VTX unit are exposed. Another thing that you should note is that, as I've shown you earlier, the camera width is 19.5 millimeters. It's in between the standard 19 millimeters wide micro FPV cameras and the 20 millimeters wide DJI-03 camera. I think that in most cases where the camera is mounted between 3D printed TPU parts, it's not going to be a problem, but it can be an issue in case it is mounted between carbon fiber parts, and you will need to use an adapter in case this build is designed for the DJI-03 system. Now, since the bottom board of the Moonlight system is the VTX board, in order to access the two IPX antenna ports, you will need to disassemble this part using a Phillips screwdriver, and after that you will be able to install the antennas. Make sure not to lose these Phillips screws as they are pretty tiny, and I know that it's going to be a little bit hard to install these antennas, so you have to be patient as you don't want to damage these IPX antenna ports. Ideally, these ports would be located on the top side, but Walksnail made this VTX board modular, and since the camera unit is connected to the recording board, which, by the way, according to Walksnail, is not going to add any latency, the camera board is located on the top side and the VTX board on the bottom one, and again, because they are using the same board which is used by the dual antenna VTX unit, they had to use this structure, which is not a deal breaker, but again, not very convenient. So what I recommend to do in order to install the antennas is to lay the VTX unit on a flat ground, guide your way in, and then using a pair of tweezers, simply press the antenna into its position. Now, after removing 5 Phillips screws, I'm able to disassemble the Moonlight VTX unit. As you can see, this is the board which is used for recording the HD footage. It is connected directly to the FPV camera, and using another MIPI connector, it is connected to the VTX board. The micro SD card is connected to the board using a flat cable, and in case you are disassembling the unit, you should be extra careful not to damage it. The DVR board is directly powered using the battery voltage, and in case you are curious, here is a closer look on its internal components. In case you are going to disassemble the DVR board, pay attention that it's going to be pretty hard to put back the micro SD card flat cable to its position, and in my experience the only way to do so is to disconnect the VTX board as well, and then you'll be able to secure it from the other side of the board. As for configuring the DVR board, it is done using the Record Set submenu under Settings. The DVR resolution can be set to up to 4K 60 frames per second, and the only way to enable, at least for now, the internal image stabilization feature is when the resolution is set to 2.7K 60 frames per second. In case the image stabilization feature is going to be turned off, a CSV file is going to be generated and you'll be able to stabilize the footage in post-processing using the Gyroflow application. The next thing that I've done is to mount the Walksnail Moonlight kit on the iFlight Evoke F4 6S drone. Overall, after testing it out, I can tell you that first of all, the Moonlight kit unfortunately is not, at least for now, a DJI-03 killer. The main problem, in my opinion, is that the firmware is still having some glitches, making it not very reliable, and I hope that things are going to be improved as Walksnail are going to release firmware updates. In terms of video quality, I think that the Moonlight kit produces some really nice 4K 60 frames per second videos, and I am going to compare it with the DJI-03 system pretty soon, at least after Walksnail are going to release a couple of firmware updates. I am not sure if the quality is better than the quality of the DJI-03, but that's something that I'm going to test in the upcoming video. One thing that I can tell you about the Moonlight kit system is that in terms of night performance, it is much better than the DJI-03 system. In terms of pricing, which is of course an important aspect to consider as well, the Moonlight kit is priced at $189, making it cheaper than the DJI-03. In addition, unlike the DJI-03, where you won't be able to buy each one of the internal boards individually, the Moonlight kit is a modular system, so you'll be able to buy each board individually and repair it by yourself. So overall, after testing it out, I can tell you that my initial impression from the Moonlight kit system is pretty mixed, as sometimes it worked great and sometimes it didn't. I'm not sure if the split style board adds or doesn't add latency for the video transmission system. Hopefully Medtech is going to test it out. My gut says that it is going to add some latency, but maybe that's something that is going to be solved via a firmware update. So Walksnail need to make sure that all these glitches are ironed out before releasing this product, and I hope that by the time that the consumers are going to get it, they are going to get a fully working and reliable system. Anyway, now I'm going to wrap up this video with some flight footage. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments section down below. I wish you all happy flying, and I'll see you soon on my next videos. Goodbye.
Around now and then, wanna find you again. All the highs, all the lows, you can find